And then I've got my own personal opinions, and so I'm going to clarify a couple of things from my point of view, which I used to do all the time, and I don't do as much anymore. But I actually put a lot of thought into this and came up with a theory of why America's fucked. So the first thing this guy mentioned, the two stories that didn't make the news, is that Iran started this conflict. Iran killed an American soldier.
Yes.
A little while ago. Now, America retaliated by killing 40 Iranians in a conflict that never made the news. The Iranians turned around and swarmed the American embassy in Iran. So Donald Trump ordered the death of this very, very bad man. Now, this guy's responsible for over 600 American deaths. He was not a nice person.
No.
He was been operating for a very long time. Now, see, the problem is what Trump has done is skipped a few steps and pissed off a lot of people. Now, this guy was on what they did. They hand Donald Trump a piece of paper, and it's got what happened and what his options are. And at the bottom of the piece of paper, apparently, there's a skull and crossbones. And Trump said, "What's that skull and crossbones?" And they said, "Oh, it's this guy." And Trump said, "I want this guy." Now, they handed that same piece of paper to George Bush. And George Bush realized that the net loss for killing this man would be too great. It's going to piss off a lot of people. The militants are going to get like 1,000 new recruits because of it, or 1 million new recruits because of it. Sorry. It's going to cause way more shit than it's worth. 10 years ago, Obama got the same offer, and him and his team decided this guy, taking him out was an option at that time. And Obama and his team decided, no, the problems it'll cause are greater than taking out this one guy. Trump, on the other hand, Trump being Trump, said, yeah, I want that guy. We're going to do that one.
And I know that because Trump, one of the things Trump admitted during an interview thing or whatever news thing, he, when asked why he didn't notify Congress, he openly stated, he says, because they can't be trusted because they leak too much information. This is why I was able to get away with. This is why I was able to do what I was able to do, because I didn't tell the Democrat or the he didn't tell the left because.
Now, can you really blame him for that, though? Honestly,
no, because they would.
Everything that's going on, like no matter what. Now he did it wrong. Okay, killing this guy was not militarily strategic. They're right. It pissed off a lot of people. 1 million new recruits are signing up, and we're kind of fucked because we didn't follow the general rules of like how these things go. What we should have done was go and kill 70 soldiers. And then they would have came, and the back and forth. It's just an understood. It's kind of a chess game. It's kind of a chess game, and he broke the rules.
He tried to solve the problem.
yeah, exactly. But it doesn't. It does create more problems than it's worth. Now, should this man have died? Absolutely. He's an evil motherfucker. There's no doubt he needed to die. But this way pisses people off, and the problem is. Now, if Iran had an aircraft carrier and America had an aircraft carrier in the Persian Gulf and they were fighting, America would win, no problem, every time. In a fair fight on a level playing field, America wins that fight every time.
Yeah.
But Iranians don't play that way, and they don't fight that way. They use IUDs, and they use child soldiers, and they use dirty tricks. And that's the problem now. What Trump has done is by playing that card far too early, it throws off his team because they don't know what's coming now. If you go step by step, you kind of know what it's a chess game, right? You know what the other player is going to do next. But now Trump has pissed them off, and nobody knows what they're going to do next.
Mm-hmm.
So that was what I took away from Mike Murphy talking about it last night. It was great to hear him talk about it. And there was a little more that he had to say, but not a tremendous amount. And then there's not a lot he can say either, right? Because you can't go revealing a lot of military strategy on a
No.
podcast. You never know who's listening. But here's the thing that struck me. You have Sunnis and Shias, and they hate each other, and they fight all the time. So what crossed my mind, the natural state for these people is conflict. Like they're fighting a fight. They don't even know why they're fighting. They're like the Irish. They're fighting their father's fight. They don't know why. They're just fighting it because it's their father's fight. And their children will be raised to fight that fight. But their natural state is conflict. And what I was saying last night about you can't beat people who have nothing to lose. These people, this war has been going on since the 70s, basically, on and off. And these people, it's just in their blood. It's what they do all the time. We're not wired that way anymore. We don't do that. And here is my takeaway from it. What they're doing is, like, the War of 1812 is always my favorite go-to when I come up with things like this. And the War of 1812, nobody won the War of 1812. We all just stopped the War of 1812 because we looked around. There was four sides fighting, and we realized Britain was sending swarm after swarm after people. America was sending swarm after swarm of people. We were just rebuilding and losing and rebuilding and losing, rebuilding and losing. But at the same time, the Industrial Revolution was happening. We were getting nice stuff. We were getting antiseptics and vaccines, and we were getting healthier. There was a time when war killed more people than anything else, or war wasn't killing as many people as like just being human. It was a filthy existence, and people died from disease. You died very young. You died from poor sanitation. So going to war made sense. And then we started getting really nice shit. And then we started living longer and living full, good lives. And then all of a sudden, dying in war didn't make as much sense. And in the War of 1812, we all just went, okay, look, this is never going to fucking end. Let's just stop it. Okay, you can have Quebec. We'll take Ontario. You can have America. You Indians, you can have this. Let's just fucking stop, because this is never going to fucking end. We got nice shit now. Let's go stop this and go do it. And that's the way we are now. That's why we don't, all the bitching you and I do about why don't we raise arms and why don't we attack and why don't we have military coups here? It's because we don't want to. We got nice shit. It's, we just not that, it's been bred out of us, that warlike thing, because we don't want to screw up what we've got. And that's what these people don't have yet. They will drag this out forever because it hasn't been.
Because that's all they know.
It's all they know, and they've got nothing to go home to. Dying in war is better than dying of hunger or any other of the bullshit ways they could die there. And they just, and then even when they're not fighting us, they're fighting each other. It's just, that's the problem. We're not made to stay in a conflict forever. They are. And we need to tell...
They know how to hold a grudge.
Yeah. And we no longer do. And we don't want to. Like, and I'm that type. I just like, okay, how do we fix this? How do I walk away from this right now? I'm done with this conversation. That's how I always do things. Okay, this conversation's done. How do we fix this right now so we both walk away and not kill each other? Okay. And they're not there yet. And this thing is going to go on for fucking ever. I don't think they ever will be. I mean, it's been how long?
Well, they've been forever. They just don't. They don't want to.
They need to do what we did in the 20th century before they reach that point that we reached. They need their industrial revolution. They need their education system, their hospital system, their everything changed, and then they'll get there as well. Every westernized nation gets there eventually. It happened in World War II too. Honestly, nobody won World War II. Germany was regrouping. Russia was regrouping. Britain was pretty tired, but America stepped in to take their place. Japan was regrouping until the nuclear bomb. That war would have continued, but everyone did the same thing. They went, look, fuck. We're just going to wipe each other off the map. And then what's the fucking point? And everyone went, yeah, that's good. Let's back the fuck off. Except for Hitler. He just went and killed himself like a pussy. But
well, the weird thing was, have you ever seen what Iran was like in the 60s and 70s?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, before the Sharia.
It looked like America.
Yeah, that was before the Ayatollah.
Wore American clothes. Yeah, they wore American. So they had that.
They did.
And
but
then in 1979, they had the revolution, and that fucked it all back up again.
Yeah, and what you've got now is small tribes that all hate each other and all have just enough money to buy new guns every time. It's nasty. It's a nasty place to be, and it's a nasty place for us to be. And again, we're not going to win, and they're not going to fight fair. I heard they fired off some missiles last night. I didn't hear where or when.
Yeah, the missiles they fired off, they hit 2 American military targets, but they were unmanned military targets. Like they'd already been emptied, which was, I think that was a good thing for them to do.
It was allegedly intentional that they went for as little casualties as possible.
Right, and they did. They got 0 casualties. Now, the only thing I'm wondering about, though, is this plane crash that happened there.
Yeah, that's going to have to be looked into. I can't see any way that wasn't an air-to-ground missile or something took down that plane. Planes don't just crash anymore.
They're refusing to hand over the black box.
Yeah, that right there says something.
So,
why right now would you refuse to hand over the black box? In a time where the whole world is kind of against you and looking for this war to start?
Which, in my opinion, is why if they didn't shoot it down, in my opinion, their whole thing would have been to be able to say, "Hey, look, fuck everybody, but we didn't do this."
Yeah, exactly.
So here's the box.
That makes perfect sense if they didn't do it.
And they even have the legal option to hand it off to a third party.
Yeah, of course.
That's not involved in any of this, to say, "Here, look, we'll give it to you guys, and you guys do whatever you fucking want with it, whatever." But nope. They're refusing to give it up. And the really weird thing about this is it is on every major news site is this Boeing thing, because you had 176 people killed, 63 of them were Canadians.
Yeah, that hasn't happened since the 80s.
Right? It is on every major news site except for one. Fox News is not covering it.
That makes sense.
It doesn't, though. Fox News could use this to, well, clearly they blew it up so they could promote the war that they want.
I'm not sure that Fox News wants this war. I'm not sure that Republicans want this war. This is Trump's war.
Yeah, but Fox News is all about Trump.
Fox News is all about Republicans. So I don't know. I don't know that. I think the reason he sidestepped Congress, honestly, is because nobody wants this to happen. I don't think it's World War III. But it could very easily become that. If Israel gets involved, that's where we go, and that's frightening. And unfortunately, Russia, like Putin, he's been itching for a war. He keeps invading. This is the perfect time for him to push his invasion of the Ukraine and Georgia.
Yep.
And he's got an alliance with North Korea. It's a scary time. Like, alliances are forming, and it could very well become World War III very, very easily. And I don't think anybody wants that. I don't think anyone has the stomach for it anymore. I know, certainly, like look at 19-year-olds these days. Really? Do you imagine them going to war?
Oh, God, no. No, they couldn't do it.
No. We don't have the military. As much as we've got strong militaries, we don't have the soldiers that we had anymore. No one has the stomach for it. And I'm certainly not going. I'm 41 years old. I'm deaf in one ear. My back hurts. I can't go, but I'm certainly not sending the little shithead kids that I know. And we don't have the technology to not send people yet. We will soon. There'll just be people